Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. Hello. Wow, that was quick. First person's on. ATV Hamburg. Welcome. Where are you connecting from? Um, yeah, so welcome to everybody that's joining in. It's weird. At the moment, it shows me that nobody is viewing, but I still see somebody that said hello in the chat, so that's interesting. Um, yeah, I'm gonna wait a few minutes for more people to join in. Germany from Hamburg City. Okay, I guess that explains the ATV Hamburg, the Hamburg part of the name. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, so for those of you who are just joining in, I'm gonna assume there are some people watching. I don't see anybody in the stream data, but interesting. Yeah, so whoever's joining in, so today what we're gonna do, first we're gonna go over just some kind of Wix news. Hello, hello, Deep Purple. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining. Um, so today we're going to go through a little bit of news. And I also have like a cool Velo update that isn't in that news to share. And also, of course, to answer some questions, with the questions being the focus. So if as you're joining, you have any questions that you would like us to discuss, um, later on in the live stream, please do leave them in the chat. For those of you where it's the first time, welcome. The way that I will prioritize the question answering is, first of all, by first come, first serve. So like whoever asks first. But I will be giving priority to channel members. So whoever's a member on the channel, if I see a question from a channel member, I'm gonna go and answer that one first. Otherwise, it's first come, first serve. And first question of each person, first serve. So like if you have multiple questions, I'll address the first one and then give other people a chance and then come back to that later on if we have time. The live stream is planned to be about an hour, but it could be a little more. Yeah, so please just let us know that you're watching. If you're watching here in the chat, say hello, where are you from? And if you have any questions, then please leave them in the chat. So I see there are some questions coming in already, which I'll start addressing in a moment. But let's start off with some news. So this news is actually from this blog post slash newsletter. So August, beginning of August, I sent out our first Wix Wiz newsletter. And basically the idea of this newsletter is really to handpick a few like really central updates to the Wix ecosystem, focusing on like 5 different levels. So we have no code, low code, code mode, so code, and whoa code. That's just me trying to be creative, but basically just different levels of information for people who are interested in different aspects of the Wix ecosystem. You can always check out the blog post yourself, or if you want, you can also subscribe to the newsletter on the Wix Wiz site and get this sent to your mailbox beginning of every month, just so you don't forget. So just some no-code updates. One really cool thing that can be done now is the sharing of Wix templates independently. So until now, if you wanted to kind of like make a template of a Wix website and sell it, essentially, you would have to. I have to remember that my camera's over here now. I want to look at everybody. So yeah. So if you wanted to sell a template of a Wix website, what you'd have to do is collect payment and then duplicate the site and transfer the site ownership to the other person, which is a process that can take time. But now you can actually just kind of create a template file essentially that you share with the person, and it has instructions for how they can just copy the site into their dashboard without you having to be involved at all. So it makes selling templates, Wix templates, it could be Wix Editor, it could be Wix Studio, a lot easier. So I wrote a little bit about that process over here. A few other notable mentions, but I won't talk about that. In the low-code section, I mentioned the CMS expressions for those of you who haven't seen the tutorial on that yet. It's basically a way to combine text in a code-like way, but without entering the whole complex dev mode of the Wix ecosystem. So you can check that out. For code mode, I'll give a shout out to the hackathon that's happening. So there is a hackathon for reusable creativity on Wix Studio. So that means either a template or a block, a Wix block or a Wix template, a Wix Studio it has to be. And obviously this is for devs, so it has to have some kind of coded element. And yeah, there's $20,000 in prizes, so yeah, definitely worth taking a look into that. I hope to participate, probably using a block, just so that I can create something that maybe I can monetize later on in the marketplace, even if I don't win any of the prizes. But yeah, if you're thinking of participating, let us know. And if you have any ideas for a block that you think could be a winner, let me know, and I can let you use that block for free after I create it, if I create it. So that's just one thing for those of you who are doing dev work that might be interesting to you. I won't go over the SO code and the WO code. Well, this is the product page plugin. This is actually the video that I released yesterday. I know a lot of people have taken interest in that. I do recommend checking it out. If there are any questions about that specifically, I'll address them. But that's really just a bit about, about the newsletter, which is new. So I wanted to share a bit about that and some Wix news. And now we can really hop in and start answering some of the questions here. So I'll start with Deep Purple, because Deep Purple is thankfully a channel member. So I really appreciate that. And Deep Purple has a question about how can I display pinch to zoom in a Wix site using Velo code? Pinch to zoom. So I'm guessing, Deep Purple, I'm going to need some clarification there on that question. I'm guessing you're talking about on mobile. And are you talking about just the ability to zoom into the website by pinching? I think that's a default capability on a web mobile browser. Yeah, if I'm... Oh, disable pinch. Okay. Thank you for... I was totally reading enable. Okay, disable pinch to zoom. That is a great question. Okay, let's see. So the way I would approach this question is first asking how can you and how do you disable pinch to zoom for a non-Wix website? Okay, so let me just first take a peek at that. So how to disable pinch to zoom web. Okay, so let's see here. So we have some answers here in Stack Overflow. The question is how to do it, not should I do it. Okay, so first of all, it seems like there are some people who are maybe saying that this is something that you should not do because it can impair the accessibility of the site essentially. Because if something's too small and somebody's trying to zoom in and they can't, that could be a problem. But I'm not gonna talk ethics here and accessibility. I'll just try and be technical and see if it's possible to disable. So let's see here. Then do your widths and percentages. Okay, so here I see this. See if I can zoom in. Yeah. So here I see this attribute here for the viewport tag where it says user scalable no. So I think that might be one of the answers. Let's see what else they have here in terms of answers. This I don't think is a good idea because then it might disable like other different touch, like it might disable other things related to touch, so I'm not sure that's it. Yeah, so I'm seeing here a few answers for the user scalable no. So essentially, what I would do is I would try and add this meta tag. I would try one of two things. I would either try and add this meta tag with the user scalable no. The thing is that on a standard Wix website, am I still zoomed in or not? Let me see 1 second. No. On a standard Wix website, let me go to the site. I'm assuming that that tag already exists. That meta tag. Let's see. It should be probably somewhere in the head. Yeah. So this meta tag already exists. So I would try one of two things. The easier one, if it works, would be to go into the custom code. So my dashboard. And then you'd want to go here into settings and go into custom code. And this is something that you can only do on a premium site. But essentially what I would do here is I would add in a custom code snippet to the head with this, this user scalable no, essentially. If that didn't work, I guess maybe because there's like a conflict between the tags. I'm not sure what happens if you have two viewport tags. So it could be that the lower one would take precedence. That's typically how things work in kind of HTML and web. It could be it wouldn't do anything. So if that didn't work, then I would try and write a JavaScript script that selects this meta tag and adds this property of content, which is user scalable no. So let me know, Deep Purple, if that answers your question. I'm not sure what your developer background is and if everything I said to you makes sense and is clear or you need further clarification. But yeah, let me know if that helps. So that was to address Deep Purple's question about the pinch to zoom disabling. So it's not Velo code per se, but it's custom code within Wix. Awesome. Yeah, so Deep Purple, let us know if that works. I'm curious to hear how that works for you. Yeah, if we have time at the end and we're not doing anything, then I'll try and demo it, but I don't want to get too tied into it now, just so that we can address some of the other questions. So I will move on to David's question because it's the first one before Deep Purple. So David said, "Hi, I have a question. When I implemented your custom cart in one of my websites, and every third product I add, it gives me a lot of zero after the number. It gives me a lot of zero after the number." Yeah, so I'm gonna definitely need some more information there. I'm not sure what you mean by after the number. Just for those of you who are not just to give a little context, so custom cart tutorial Wix Wiz. So yeah, so I think David is referring to this tutorial. It's a tutorial with several parts. So David, maybe if you can 57. Yeah, but David, like what is that number? What is that number representing? Is that like the quantity? Is that the price? Is that a certain? I'm not sure what that number is. in your project. Yeah, so I'm going to give you some time to, it's the price. Every third product I add, it gives me a lot of zero after the number. Is the site live? Do you have a link? Maybe I can take a look. If the site's live, I can try taking a look and seeing what, if I see anything there. That's probably the best I can do at this point. What I can do is, do I still have let me see if I still have that custom cart site. Maybe I can of the product, like when I add 10, 20, 30. Like if you're saying like if you increase the quantity, um, to 10 or to 20 or to 30, then it gives you all those zeros after the price specifically. Yeah. So David, what I'm going to say is if you can make your site live and share, that would be very helpful. If not, I'll come back to this question and try and use my version of the custom cart template to try and replicate it, but that will take a little bit of time. So I just want to take a look at some of the other questions, and if you can share a link to the live site, that would be very helpful. Okay, so I'm just taking a look here at ATV Hamburg. Is there any way to get additional custom fields for the Wix integrated CMS collection services like you can do with the members collection? Okay. So as far as I know, you can't. But generally, what you can do is you can create your own CMS collection and link it to the services collection and then essentially use that as an extension of the services collection. I don't know, assuming that you're doing like some coding and customization. So basically, like what I would do in this scenario, again, like if you're going full no code, then this might not help so much. But essentially, so let's say, let me install this, so you're talking about essentially bookings, right? Wix Bookings. Yeah, so what I would do is I would add Wix Bookings. And this is actually a great opportunity for me to point out another change that Wix has made recently that actually kind of drove me crazy until thankfully somebody, I think it was Noah, answered my question on the Discord about this, about associating between CMS collections and the Wix business app collections. Yeah, so basically, if I understand correctly, ATV Hamburg is using the Wix Bookings app, and they want to essentially add additional information about the booking or something like that or about the specific services that is not something that you can do out of the box with Wix Bookings. So in this scenario, what I would do is, first of all, you're going to want to go to your dashboard actually. So let me go ahead and, well, this is for the other one. Let me go to the dashboard of this site. And welcome to all the new people who might have joined in. I see we have 9 concurrent viewers, so welcome. Thanks for joining. Say hello in the chat, please. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them into the chat. So here, inside of CMS, Wix added this new thing. So you're going to want to go to More Actions. and advanced settings. And then here, there's something called Wix App Collections, which essentially will let you know if you can see the Wix App Collections from within the CMS, like when you're creating a reference field, like I'm about to show you how to do. So you're going to want to make sure that that's toggled on. Otherwise, you're not going to find what I'm about to show you. Once you've done that, so here, if I go into the CMS, what I would do is I would create a collection. Just start from scratch. And this could be, let's say, custom services. And then essentially what I would do here is I would create fields um, with the extra information that I want to add to the service. And then I would create one field that's either a reference or a multi-reference. And then I would reference the, so here now, you see in this dropdown, I don't see any collections, like I only see custom services. That's probably because the thing that I just toggled on didn't really sink in yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to refresh the editor. And I'm going to close the other editor that I have here just because I don't want my computer to get overwhelmed with all the Wix editors and the live stream. Yeah, but basically, now that I've toggled this setting on and I'm refreshing the editor, so inside that multi-reference field, I should be able to reference one of the Wix app collections, so the booking collection essentially. So let me just hop here back into the CMS, which it's claiming I didn't add to site. But here, if I go here into custom services, and let's try to do that reference field again. So I'm going to create a reference. And let's call this, let's say, services. And this can reference. So now you see here I have all the Wix app collections because I refreshed the editor. And here I can select, let's say, services. And then I can associate this with a specific service and add the additional fields here. And then whenever I'm trying to display something about the service, I can just query this collection essentially for the item that's related to the specific service and get all the additional data that I want. That's kind of if you're doing some kind of customization. That's usually how I would approach this type of problem, assuming that you can't do it out of the box with Wix. Yeah, so this is like a general solution. It's not only for Wix bookings. Like you could do it with any of the Wix business solutions essentially. And that's it's a big problem solver. So yeah, let me know if you have any follow-ups on that, ATV Hamburg. And let me see if there are any other questions that came in or clarifications on previous questions. So I have here Saad. Hi, Tan. Hello. Can you hear me? Let me know. Let me know if you could still hear me. Uh, there was a brief moment where I wasn't really moving, but now I think I am. Anybody? Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me or see me? Hmm. Okay. Oh, great. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I was worried. I was worried. Okay. So I was in the middle of taking a look at Saad's question about the composed SVG animations on scroll. Not only that, but also in a sleek and manageable way using Wix Velo. So I am not an expert on SVG animations. Let me see if I can find an example of SVG animation on scroll. Um, I have to understand how this works to begin with before telling you how to do that on Velo. Um, let's see here. Okay, so there's an SVG element, and I see there's also some CSS here, and then there's JavaScript, which selects the animation. It selects, yeah, it selects this essentially, I guess. And then what does it do? Well, this uses some kind of library. It's called Lenis to scroll. Okay, so basically, yeah. So I'm going to answer this in a kind of generic way without having to dive too much here into SVG. I mean, I would love to learn more about this. Maybe this would actually be good material for a tutorial. I'm wondering, here I see they're doing it with a library. Um, so I'm sure it's possible without a library. Just usually I would like to understand how it's done without a library to gain like some fundamental understanding of how it's done before using a library. Not that I'm anti-library, just like for my own understanding. Let's take a look at this code pen over here. So this seems to be using like some kind of jQuery, which is okay. Yeah, what I would do with this probably, um, I think this would have to be done using a custom element, I want to say. I don't think an iframe would be a good implementation for this because essentially we need to pick up on, in the end of the day, no matter how they're doing this, we're going to have to pick up on the scroll event in the DOM. And that's something that we can't do with Velo. Okay, we can't access the scroll event. That's not something we can do. So that means that in order to detect the scroll event, either we're going to have to use the custom code area, which is what I showed before, and then somehow communicate from that into a communicate like into an iframe or something like that, which is possible. I have a tutorial about that, but it's a little convoluted probably for what you're trying to do here. There might also be slight delays. So if I was trying to implement this, I would go the custom element direction. For those of you who are not familiar with custom elements, this is also something that if you're trying to do this, so this is interesting. Let me point this out actually. So to add a custom element, you'll go over here, add elements, and you would add in embed in social. It's pretty similar in Wix editor as well. Like this, it exists also in Studio and also Editor. So here you have custom element. And essentially, a custom element is something that's actually it's not unique to Wix. It's a general concept in web development. You can basically create your own HTML elements by extending the class of HTML element. And essentially you can write your own, HTML, CSS, JavaScript that all runs kind of within this element's brain, quote unquote, within the class. And you can connect this either to a server URL. I usually implement this using just a Velo, like a Velo file. And I have to turn on dev mode. Let's do that. But you'll notice here, the main thing that I was trying to point out here. Yeah, so you could choose like a Velo file. If you don't have one already, it'll just add one, essentially. Over here, let me show you. So it'll automatically create this folder for you with like a JS file where you can create the element. This is all pretty complex. I don't know, they kind of changed the structure here in this example. But yeah, I mean, there are more simple examples you can look at here inside of the documentation or the guides essentially. But basically, you just create a new class which extends HTML element, and at the end you define it here as a unique HTML tag, and then whatever you create over here in that file will be inserted as an HTML element to your website. And this is like a lot more native to your website than an iframe, and you should have access using JavaScript to all of the standard, like scroll effects and like event listeners and stuff like that. One thing that I've been trying, meaning to say for this whole time, is that here you can see that when I add this HTML element, this custom element, it's telling me that I have to upgrade my site to premium. So if you want to get around this, you can actually build custom elements inside of Wix blocks for free. And you don't have to have a premium site or anything, and you can use those blocks also in free Wix websites. So usually nowadays, when I'm creating a custom element, I just do it in a block, and then I use that block in whatever website. Because it's also, I'll have it reusable for next time, and I won't have to create a free site and whatnot. So again, I'm not talking here from experience specifically with SVG Animations, because that's not something I've done per se. But this is definitely what I would explore, and with like 90% certainty is going to allow you to implement that, if anything will allow you to do that inside of the Wix ecosystem. So that is to answer Saad's question. Yeah, so let me know if that addressed it. I'm trying to understand what Stefan said here. Insert can't see me John Cena meme here. Let me see what that means. I'm curious what that meme is. So like, indulge me for a second, everyone, like for some entertainment. Oh, got it. That's the meme we're talking about, if anybody's wondering. Yes. Okay. Great. So awesome. So okay, new question just came in from Chowei, and the question is, hi Ethan, a question about Velo. Is it possible to append a newly created elements like jQuery to the DOM in Velo without using Wix repeaters? The answer is generally no. Inside of Wix Velo, you do not have access to the DOM. So you cannot append elements from within Velo IDE. You could technically append an element using the custom code from the dashboard settings, but it would be very hard to combine that with the general logic of your website. The closest thing that's anywhere possible to what you're describing, and it's most likely not what you need at all, is essentially you can Wix Velo remove, or no, I think it's like delete elements. No, it's not this. There is like there is an option to like delete elements and restore them. So it's like a kind of like more advanced usage than like collapse and hide. But like the element has to be a Wix element that you put. It's not this, by the way. This is don't look at what don't look at my screen now. Let's see, delete. Where is that? Delete. Just looking for plain delete. It's on most elements. Like if we go here, look here in $W, like look just like at a box element, let's say. Not audio player. Box. Yeah, so you'll see here there's this delete property. So this like deletes an element from the DOM. Temporary deletion, use restore to restore the deleted element. So like this is like I know it's like not at all what you're looking for, but this is the closest I would say that you can get to that. But like the element has to exist beforehand. Yeah, so it's not really, you're not really appending it to a specific other element. You're just kind of restoring it to where it was originally on the canvas. But yeah, in Wix you do not have free reign over the DOM using Velo. Okay, so I see that we are out of questions and we do have more time. So first of all, feel free to add more questions if you'd like. And what I'll do now is I'm going to try and tackle David's question again about the adding products. So you sent another message. It happens every third product I add in the quantity of the product. So if it costs 1, then when I add 3 of the product, it will show me 3.0000, and the same thing when I add 6 and 9. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna brainstorm here a little bit. So it does sound to me, first of all, like something like a Wix problem, like something that you should reach out to Wix about. The core of the problem, it likely has to do with a topic which I wish I knew more about, but it's has to do with how numbers work in JavaScript versus strings. Yeah, basically numbers, and I'm totally botching this. So if there's somebody here who's very educated, yeah, like don't make too much fun of me. But basically, you have there's a concept of integers and floats. Essentially, when you have a number in JavaScript, even though it's represented as a whole number, so like let's say it's the number 3, it might technically be like 3.00000000001. Okay, something like that. Like computers are not very good at the whole number calculations. So like it could be that once you're adding more quantity and essentially multiplying this number, that factors in somehow and it for some reason displays all those zeros. That's like kind of what is likely happening here. I don't think it's something that you or I have control over. And like I think that if so essentially the API that we're using here, let me at least give that background. So here we essentially in this tutorial that we're talking about, so we build a custom cart page using the Wix Ecom APIs. And let me collapse this. So essentially, when it would also be interesting how you're changing the, right, so we're changing the quantity of the products on the custom cart page. So essentially that happens using Wix Ecom. Wix Ecom, I think it's a Wix Ecom backend, current cart, update current cart line item quantity. So this, if I remember correctly, this is the Velo API that we're using there to change the quantity. And essentially what we do here is we pass in the ID and the quantity that we want it to be. So if this is working, like the quantity is actually changing and the price is recalculating, I don't see how it could be our fault. Again, it sounds to me like something that Wix might take interest in if you reported it. I'd love to hear the follow-up on that, but assuming that this is what you're using and it's working, then I don't see how we would have control over how it's displayed in the cart. But since it is a custom cart, unless you're talking about the checkout page, but since it is a custom cart, and you have control over, how you display the numbers, then technically you could take that price, which is like, I don't know what you said, 57.00000, and round that down before you display it to the user. And that could be kind of a workaround, assuming that it doesn't cause issues when they later check out and they see like a different price than what they have on the cart. Those are kind of the directions I would go in terms of investigating that and reporting it and trying to solve it. I hope that helps. Yeah, by the way, like, if anybody has specific questions that I don't manage to address over the live stream, or for some reason you don't want to share your project or your question with everyone, you obviously have the option to, I mean, you don't obviously, you also have the option to book a consultation with me through my website, not your website, through my website, thewixwiz.com, and we can have a one-on-one, and we can, depending on the length of the session, either discuss the issue and talk about strategy, or actually try and dive in and take a peek at what's not working and try and fix code and stuff like that. So that's also totally an option. Okay, I see Arnon sent something but retracted it. So I'm going to go next to Saad's next question. Could you show another demo on how to set up push notifications for users when they log into the site, using both offline and online methods in a simpler way? Push notifications, texts, target users stored in the CMS table. I don't think I have a demo about push notifications, to be honest. I don't, yeah, so push notifications, I've played around with it before. Usually you're going to be using some kind of service, like for sending like SMS and like usually you're using some third-party service. So Saad, let me know if you already identified like a third-party service that you're using for that. And essentially the way I would do it is I would integrate it using the Wix backend, probably using some kind of hook. So for example, when they log into the site or when they sign up for the site. If you want to send it when they log into the site, what you can do is if you go to Wix members, Wix members front end, authentication, on login. So essentially, this is like an event listener or a hook, which will run a callback function whenever a user logs into the website. So essentially, I would implement this on my master page. Master page is the page is the code file that runs whenever any page of the site loads. So this right over here. So I would implement this hook, this callback function on login on that master page, and then essentially you can create a function and run whatever logic you want when a user logs in. So oh, you want to use the Wix real-time API? Well, the Wix real-time API, I mean, it's not going to help you send. Maybe I misunderstood what you said. I thought when you said push notifications texts, then I thought you meant like an SMS. So what you might mean is yeah, just displaying some kind of text. So I do have a tutorial about the Wix real time, and I have another tutorial which specifically talks about notifications in Wix real time. So if you could tell me if you've seen those tutorials, and if you have, what you're still struggling with, then I can try and identify that. I can try and explain that a little more. But that is, yeah, I would need to know, because I do have tutorials on those things, and it is quite a broad topic. It would help if I had a little more specificity as to what you're struggling with, so that I can address that. Okay, so I think we're done with questions. So if there are any more questions, please send them. And I just wanted to share an update that will be helpful for people who have seen one of my tutorials about delivery dates. So if you go here to Wix Wiz delivery dates. So essentially in this tutorial, if you guys haven't heard of Wix, it's a great platform. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's ironic that I always get ads for Wix whenever I'm on YouTube. But basically, yeah, this is a tutorial where essentially part of these. Let me see if I can. Just want to find that screen of what we finally do here at the end. Yeah, I'm not finding it right now. So basically, oh, okay, here, this is good. So basically what we do in this in this tutorial is we add this delivery date picker to the cart page. So, and we use the validations SPI to force the user to pick a delivery date before they go to checkout. And the way that it worked is that after they pick a delivery date and they go to checkout, so on the checkout page, it would display the warning that prevents them from actually checking out. But we didn't have a way to do it on the cart page because essentially after the delivery date was changed, the cart page doesn't refresh and trigger the SPI again. So that would prevent us from displaying that warning on the cart page, which would have been the better user experience. So basically what I wanted to share today is that a new batch of APIs just came out. I happened to stumble upon it, I think, last week or the week before, so it must be really, really new. But essentially, if we go here to Wix Ecom front end, so this whole library, this whole package, I think, is new. Wix Ecom front end. I don't remember that existing Tell me if you think I'm wrong, but basically here we added two very important APIs. So one is on cart change, the other one is refresh cart. So basically this would allow us from the front end to refresh the cart and basically run all of the SPIs, the service plugins again, and implement that kind of validation on the cart page after a change has been made to the cart. That doesn't usually trigger that SPI, that cart refresh. So this is actually super powerful, and it really amplifies the abilities of the various SPIs slash service plugin, same thing, but they changed the name for some reason. So I just want to point that out for those of you who may have followed that other tutorial and want to upgrade kind of that implementation. Or if you're using service plugins in generals or SPIs, then this is, with regard to the cart, then this could be super, super helpful. Another cool one is the on-cart changed. I thought that was also cool that we have access to that as well. I can imagine that being useful in the future as well. So yeah, navigate to checkout page. I haven't checked out all of these, but this one was just really caught my eye because it solved that issue that we had previously. Who knows? Maybe they watched the tutorial and that's what inspired the change there. So that is just one more thing that I wanted to share. And yeah, so we're at about 50 minutes for the live stream. So we do have about 10 minutes left. If anybody wants to put in a last question, if anybody's still online, you could also just tell a joke or share another meme. Yeah, or ask like a non-technical question that's kind of Wix related, not too personal, but I'd be happy to answer that. So I'll give another minute or two to see if anybody else has any other questions or suggestions for like what you would want to see on this kind of live stream, suggestions for upcoming tutorials. Yeah, this is your chance. Thank you for whoever's leaving the heart emojis. I do see them. Yeah, so let's give one more minute there for people if you want to. Yeah, I'm curious what you think of the new the full cutout. I figured it's better because then like less of the screen is blocked with like my background. And also get just a cooler vibe in general that I get with this. I got a new camera. Um, Deep Purple, can you explain in a future video on Wix Analytics, especially about the behavior of website visitors? Yeah. Yeah, is there anything specific? It's a cool idea. Is there anything specific about Wix Analytics? I know that they have an API. I think there's an API for Wix Analytics. Is that what you're talking about? Um, no, I don't think that's that. Wix Editor. Let's see, Wix Site plugins. This looks new. What's this? Plugins. Interesting. It's like you go into the docs, you can see something new like every single day. Um, I remember seeing something about Wix Analytics. Is it Wix? Maybe it's a Wix site back. Oh, site monitoring. Log entry. Yeah, so this actually allows you. I remember seeing this also in the SPIs slash service plugins. Um, this essentially allows you to, I think, make custom like analytical logs. Um, but I would need to look more into it. Yeah. Um, Disable print zoom in a Wix site in your future video. Sure, Deep Purple. Can you share a little bit, Deep Purple, about why you're trying to disable the pinch zoom? Because that, like, it would help me frame the tutorial if I made it like in a way that would be um, relevant for more people. Like if there was a certain general reason, like when I'm creating to, let me take a step back. Like when I'm creating tutorials, like obviously I'm trying to create a tutorial that will interest a large audience, just because I want to help as many people as possible. And also, like if I'm investing my time, I want to know that it's of interest to many people. And I have ways of helping people with individual problems, but that's not necessarily what I want to leverage YouTube for. So it's like when somebody asks for a specific tutorial, it's important for me to understand like why they want that tutorial, and if that tutorial is something that's going to interest like a broad audience. So if you can make an argument for those requests that explains why this is something that would maybe interest a lot of people, then I definitely consider creating tutorials about them. Um, so Saad asked another philosophical question, which I think would be a good question to end off with. So I'm just going to read this last question, answer it, and that's going to be all for this month's live stream. So Saad asked, generally in a more philosophic way, how do you respond to clients who say, I won't use Wix because it feels like renting the product, while WordPress is free and has JavaScript and coding options? So let me answer this twofold. One is maybe threefold. One is that specifically, because I specialize in Wix, I tend to attract clients who are on Wix, or have made the decision to go with Wix. So I rarely find myself in a position where I am trying to convince people to go with Wix. And even when I find myself in that position, I don't actively sell Wix. Okay, like Wix is a great platform. I think it's definitely one of the best, but I don't own Wix. I don't work for Wix. I can't vouch for Wix. So if they make something, if they decide to screw up the product and it won't work tomorrow, that's not something that I have control over. So same goes for any other platform. So I am not in the business of selling a specific platform. Everybody has to educate themselves and make that decision themselves. I never try and convince somebody that Wix is for them. I can tell them what the advantages and disadvantages of our Wix are in comparison to other platforms, but I will never try and sell the platform. That said, if you're asking my opinion about this topic, so Wix is an overall encompassing solution. Okay, so it's a one-stop shop that's built as an ecosystem that's supposed to integrate and work together. And you get a lot of stuff out of the box. Whereas WordPress is kind of the Wild West. While it's true that you may own all the files of your site essentially once you decide, like, depending on which solution you go with, because even WordPress has so many different. First of all, WordPress is not free. Like, you're gonna have to, um, like, it's free to use their CMS like the open source software, but that's gonna need to be hosted somewhere, and you're going to need to maintain that. So that's some kind of cost. Even if you're doing it yourself, it's a time crunch. And if you're using different plugins for different business solutions, those might cost money. So the WordPress is free part. Yeah, I mean, like building a website from scratch on Next.js is also free, like it's free here is used in a very interesting way. Um, and while it's true that you own again, depending on which WordPress solution you go with, you may own like the actual files of your site. But down the line, when you take it somewhere else, you're going to have to pay. There will likely be conversion costs for getting it up and running on a different hosting system with different plugins or different whatnot, then it's not. I don't think it's as WordPress is all lovely and Wix you're locked in. I do agree that generally with Wix you do have a high level of lock-in with compared to WordPress, maybe compared to Webflow to some extent. But you're not less locked in than you would be with, you're not more locked in than you would be with like Squarespace or other, let me try and think of maybe Weebly or like other, web hosting solutions. Like I think there's a certain level of lock-in wherever you are. And with Wix, you're just totally, you have everything almost out of the box in a managed ecosystem that doesn't rarely has you paying extra for different add-ons within that ecosystem. So like you upgrade your site to premium and you have Wix stores, you have payments, you have bookings, you have membership, you have almost everything out of the box without having to go look for plugins. And in terms of JavaScript and coding options, I really don't think that Wix is less capable. It's true that sometimes you have to get creative, and you do have limitations over controlling the DOM. But if you're familiar with how to do coding in Wix, it really does give you a very wide ability to do things that I think you can't even do in stuff like Webflow and stuff like that. So yeah, in a nutshell, I mean, sure, Wix isn't perfect, and there are things about Wix that can definitely improve, like the speed, loading speeds and stuff like that. But yeah, like there are advantages and disadvantages to being in the wild west of WordPress. I mean, there's lots of flexibility, capability, and opportunity, but it's also very easy to to get bitten by a rattlesnake and and die a not so pleasant death. So that's my 2 cents on Wix versus WordPress. Obviously, I'm much more proficient in Wix than WordPress, so I'm not speaking out of a 5-year WordPress developer experience, but based on my familiarity with the platform, those are basically the struggles of each one versus the other. Yes, that was my rant on Wix and WordPress. You could also you can try searching Google for Wix a while back, maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, they did a series of ads. Let me see if I can find it. The Wix, I have Google here. I have a computer. Wix versus WordPress ads. Yeah, it's kind of hard to find now because they I think Wix kind of took it down and they really tried to hide because it didn't they got kind of bad rep because of it. But essentially, it was a set of ads that compared Wix and WordPress in a similar way to how like Mac PC used to have these, like Apple used to have these Mac versus PC ads where it displayed like Mac as this like young, cool, like savvy guy, and like PC as this like middle-aged kind of man who doesn't really know what he's doing. So Wix also did like a spin on those like ads of Wix versus WordPress. And they highlighted some of the points that I was just making about like glitchiness and like maintenance and stuff. I wish I could find those ads. Oh, here, this one, yeah. The Wix negative ads against WordPress generates backlash. Um, I don't know if you could see still any of the ads, but I did look for them a while back and I tried to find them. I think you could if you try hard you can still find the ads. They're somewhat nice. yeah, so that is going to be all for today. Thank you for whoever joined in. I hope you found this. And yeah, I have noticed, so we've been doing this monthly live stream um, for the past few months. I've noticed that like the numbers have started going down a little bit, and the question, like there have been less and less questions. So I'm wondering if every month is too frequent for a live stream, or if there's something I can change in the structure of the live stream or the timing of the live stream to make it more appealing and relevant. So yeah, feel free to comment if you have any thoughts on that. But I mean, you guys are the people who showed up, so I'm not, yeah, you're the supportive one. So I appreciate everybody for coming, and I hope that I was able to help somewhat. And I will be seeing you next month for a live stream. So have a great rest of your day. Uh, that's all.